Before we start today's episode of the I'm Fine podcast, we want to make sure to thank our sponsors. And for today's episode, we are lucky enough to have 3. So our first one is Smart Local 265. Smart Local 265 is a sheet metal union based out of Carroll Stream, Illinois. Its membership consists of roughly 1,869 members, and with over 150 contractors providing work to over 9 local counties, Local 265 specializes in all things HVAC. From commercial to residential to industrial to architectural, Smart Local 265 does it all. With their 4-year apprenticeship program, Smart Local 265 trains some of the industry's most skilled HVAC mechanics in addition to doing volunteer work in their communities and donating to local charities like Project Headspace and Timing throughout the year. For more information on locating a qualified contractor or how to become a member of the Smart Local 265 family, please visit smart265.org. And if you want more information on that, please check out our episode, I'm Fine with the Great Outdoors, where we have our friend, United States Marine Corps veteran Chris James, who's also an employee of Smart Local 265, who really gets into why he loves working for them so much. So you can check that out too. For our new sponsors for today's episode, our first new sponsor is Kaz Cauliflower Pizza. Now, Kaz Cauliflower Pizza was started by United States Marine Corps infantry veteran Rob Slotin. The cool thing about this is Slotin's actually a very good friend of mine. We were in the State Department together. We trained to work for Triple Canopy in Iraq together, and that's where he and I met. After his time contracting, he was a United States Marshal, and then after that, he actually recently retired, at which time he opened Kaz Cauliflower Pizza. He used a secret family recipe to create a delicious alternative to carb-heavy options often found when enjoying your favorite slice of pizza. Homemade taste, handmade crusts, and healthy enough that they've began selling at GNC locations, juice bars, and restaurants all throughout southern Florida. So Slotin, he sent us a few. He sent us some crusts that we could make pizzas on, which we haven't done yet. And then he sent us their mini pizza bites, which Brad and I tried right before this episode. And Brad, what did you think?
Secrets out, because they are delicious.
I was going to say, you liked them.
You really liked them. I love them.
I wish that we were recording when you tried it, because you tried it and you're like, yo, dude, what the fuck? Like, you were like, this is healthy? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's healthy.
I would take it over pizza.
Yeah.
And I've only had it once. First time. Delicious.
Super easy. They have the crust that you can buy. The crust that you purchase, you actually just, they come frozen, and all you got to do is throw your favorite toppings and pizza sauce on there, throw it in the oven for a couple of minutes, and boom, you got a healthy pizza alternative. And they also have those mini pizza bites, which we tried, which are like just an amazing updated version of the potato chip. Like, they're super healthy.
Yes.
You feel great eating them, and they taste great too.
Absolutely.
So we have a cool offer thanks to Kaz Cauliflower Pizza. If you want to try Kaz Cauliflower Pizza, visit www.kaz, that's C-A-S, cauliflowerpizza.com. If you place an order, add the words "Fine Family" before your name and the shipping address, and you will receive 1 free pizza with your order. Again, www.kazcauliflowerpizza.com, C-A-S, Kaz, and place the words "Fine Family" before your name and the shipping address, and you'll get 1 free pizza with your order. Our next and last and certainly not least sponsor for today's episode is Sargent Stickers. So you can boost your brand appeal with Sargent Stickers and create memorable experiences for your customers with their high-quality stickers and branded merchandise. Sargent Stickers strives to be a partner in production, ensuring that you will get the highest quality products possible, and actively works and advises their clients to ensure that their products are usable and successful the first time, saving both time and money. Sargent Stickers is a disabled veteran-owned business dedicated to supporting American businesses, unlike major integrated printing companies that order their vinyl in bulk from overseas at the lowest possible price. So check out Sargent Stickers at sargentstickers.com, SERGEANT stickers.com. And check them out on Instagram at Sargent Stickers. So my buddy Slotin from Kaz Cauliflower Pizza. He and Sergeant Stickers sent me over a PMag, so a magazine for my AR, and Sergeant Stickers printed Slotin's old Marshall logo on it, which is pretty cool. So if you can see that on the camera there, you can see how detailed it is. It's beautiful. It's smooth. It looks amazing. They can do this not just for PMags, but pretty much anything, phone covers, whatever you got. So check out Sergeant Stickers again at www.sergeantstickers.com. On today's episode of the I'm Fine podcast, we are going to talk about being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional about being a parent in today's society. We're going to talk about what it feels like being a bad parent, what actually being a bad parent is, what it's not, parenting styles, what it feels like in our personal lives, and what to do when you feel like you failed as a parent.
Welcome to the I'm Fine podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stozick.
3 sponsors.
3 sponsors.
Look at us.
We made it.
We got to eat pizza today.
We did. Healthy
And it was,
pizza.
and it was healthy pizza. And
Healthy
I felt good
pizza.
about myself, and it was delicious.
It was so good. Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
But I think those pizza bites we had
Yeah.
puts bagel bites to shame, dude.
Yeah, well, I love bagel bites, but you just feel super bad eating them.
Yeah.
Because you're eating it and you're like, I know that this is super, super bad for me.
Yeah.
Like, I like bagel bites more than deep dish. Like, I don't like deep dish pizza because it's just like...
What?
You do?
Dude, it's like lasagna with crust.
That's why I don't like it.
I love deep dish pizza.
That's why I don't like it. It's too, I mean, I got to be in the mood for it. And I got to be in the mood not for pizza. I have to be in the mood for lasagna with crust, like you were saying, like a casserole. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, I mean, getting to eat little healthy cauliflower pizzas because they're one of our sponsors is just, hey, we're doing all right, buddy.
And you wouldn't even know that it was cauliflower.
No, I know.
That's the best part.
I know. I thought I loved it. I was happy to do that. As our topic for today, which we thought would be pretty beneficial, just following Father's Day, was what it feels like to fail as a parent. So I feel like it a lot. I feel like it every day. We've talked about it. The stress of being a parent is very real. And I see so many of my friends, my wife and I talk about all the time, that are just so stressed out being a parent. Like it's a fucking lot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we wanted to kind of cover that a little bit for an episode and insert some of our own life experiences and all of our many, many failures, whether it was how we were parented or how we parent. But so as far as like what it feels like, what it feels like to fail as a parent. I found this on Sleeping Should Be Easy. And I mean, I could have fucking wrote this, but just to outline out there if you're not sure or if you're just kind of curious. What does it feel like to fail as a parent? So 1, you blame yourself for the attitude and disrespect that your kids display. And I feel like, yes, that's huge because constantly, if your kid acts up in public, immediately, and we've talked about this, I feel like I immediately have to validate myself as a parent to a bunch of strangers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, hey, I know my kid's acting up, and usually it's just because I'm overly considerate.
Yeah.
And so if my kid is just acting like a kid, like just, laughing, joking, being a little loud, whatever, like I immediately look at that, excuse me, it's like, oh, my kid's disrupting other people right now.
Yep.
And like now it looks like I'm inconsiderate. And if I don't do anything to stop my kid's behavior, it makes me look like a bigger asshole, right? When most people, I feel like, are just like, they understand that kids are fucking kids. But yeah, so blaming yourself for the attitude and disrespect. If you're constantly yelling, and no matter how much you try not to lose your temper, you do, just because it seems like it's the only thing that works and gets through to your kids. Your toddler's constant tantrums and meltdowns make you feel exhausted by the end of the day. The baby, if you currently are parenting a baby right now, the baby never seems happy, no matter how much you try to soothe them. You feel guilty that you're not engaging with your kids enough or building a strong bond with them, you have no idea what to do about your child being angry. Your child isn't meeting milestones, and deep down, you blame yourself for not doing enough. And the days feel frantic, like you're rushing every single minute, and you lack any sort of routine. So yeah, my wife is just gonna be like, yeah, no shit. Yep,
Sounds like every day.
Sounds like every fucking day.
That ends in Y.
With the exception of like the routine thing. The one thing that I always give my wife so much credit for that I thought was bullshit initially was like she started a routine with our girls.
Yeah.
From like, not Lily, my oldest, you learn a lot with your first kid.
Oh yeah.
But even then, early on, she knew the importance of getting our kids on a routine, and putting them on a routine I saw immediately was super beneficial. But there's still so many times that you can't exactly follow the routine that you want. But everything else on here, oh my God. Like, whenever the constant yelling, whenever you yell at your kids, like, I don't think anybody wants to yell at their fucking kids, right?
No, not at all.
Nobody wants to yell at your kids. And then you do yell, and then you feel bad.
Yep.
And now I'm not a big yeller. I'm more passive aggressive and sarcastic.
What?
So like I won't yell that much.
Yeah.
But like whenever I do get pushed to the point of yelling, I'm always like, I fucking hate myself right now.
Oh yeah.
And you see it in your kids' eyes when you yell at them, and you see that and you feel that fear that they have, like you had from your parents.
Oh
when
yeah.
they yelled at you, and you're like, but also I feel like that's necessary too. You know what I'm saying? Like every once in a while, you gotta fucking yell at them. You gotta yell at them once in a while.
Yeah,
because listen, these kids don't fucking listen.
Yeah, and I think that sets up the boundary between like, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
And I'm very clear about like I tell my oldest that because she understands now. Like I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your parent.
Yeah,
I love having the friend relationship with you.
Absolutely.
But I am always your parent first.
Oh, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
So some of the common parenting issues, these are the things that I think a lot of parents worry about, they might notice that they're doing. And these are kind of some red flags if you feel like you're doing them as a parent. So some of the less desirable behaviors, and this is according to healthline.com, over or under involvement, which I agree, and I like this. So on one end, you have the uninvolved parents who are neglectful, don't respond to their kids' needs beyond the basics of shelter, food, and clothing. And while not as damaging as a neglectful style, you also have the over-involved parents, so like the helicopter parent.
Yep.
And they can do more harm than good because they take control of decisions and they're doing too much for their kids, hindering them from learning by doing. And I find that I bounce between, like, I don't feel like I'm uninvolved. Yeah. But I definitely get the helicopter parent thing because it's like, dude, especially if you're already, like, if you have anything going on mentally, anxiety, any of the facets of PTSD, paranoia, whatever, like, yeah, in certain situations, I'm going to turn into a helicopter parent, especially with my youngest, because she doesn't listen to fucking anything. So when I'm out with her in public, like, yeah, I'm constantly looking at her and like, where's she going? What is she doing? Because you can't child-proof the world.
Yeah, no.
You just can't. But like when I bring my kid out somewhere, I'm just immediately looking for all the things that I know that she's gonna fuck with. You know what I mean? So I do that helicopter parent. But
dude, every time you talk about your youngest, I think of, have you ever seen Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah.
The very first part where Lilo finds Stitch and he's like trying to walk to her. Yeah. And someone's trying to like hold her back. And he's just like,
dude. So if you're a parent to a kid that's like 8 years old or younger, you're familiar with the cartoon Bluey. Yeah. And on Bluey, it's about a dog named Bluey and his sister, her sister. And they also have two cousins, and their cousins are like these fucking feral little beasts, and one's named Muffin and the other's named Socks. And my wife and I were watching it with the girls the other day, and initially we were like, oh, our kids are like Bluey, and I forget what Bluey's sister's name. You remember? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Like, oh, our kids are like the main two characters. But we realized that the main characters are really like prim and proper, and for the most part listen really well. And the two fucking cousins that they just kick out of the closet every couple episodes are just like running around yelling, screaming, swinging their fists, like making haymakers and just destroying shit. And we're like, no, those are our kids. 100%. Those are our kids. And again, it's like you feel like you're failing.
Yeah.
And the reason why I feel like I'm failing is like, and I've said this 1,000 times, especially to be a dad of daughters.
Yep.
I want them to have a fire in them.
Oh, sure.
And they have it. And I don't want them to lose it, because I want them to be able to take care of themselves. I want them to learn how to think for themselves. I want them to know, to love themselves. But I want them to be able to be confident in who they are and trying new things. And so like you see this fire in your children, and you don't want to put it out by just dismissing them or being uninvolved or whatever, but it's just such a pain in the ass to try to parent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
Like I told Ashley forever ago that I was going to be like the dad in Calvin and Hobbes. Because did you ever read Calvin and Hobbes?
Oh, it's been a minute, man.
I fucking love Calvin and Hobbes. The dad, like anytime Calvin would ask a question, the dad would just make some shit up. And it was very clear that he was making shit up, but he would always have an answer for everything. And I always said that I just didn't want to dismiss my kid if they were asking me questions, because I wanted them to know it was okay to ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
And that made it so far. Like the same as how before I had kids, I was like, I'm only going to feed my kids the healthiest fucking whatever fruits and vegetables and things. And then you have like 2 kids, and then you're just like shoveling shit and whatever you will eat. I don't give a shit anymore. It's like same kind of thing. So I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, helicopter parents, uninvolved parents, those are some less than desirable behaviors. Discipline. So again, it's like both ends of the spectrum, little to no discipline or having a strict and rigid discipline. They both can be problematic. Yep. According to Sharon Frederick, a licensed social worker and a psychotherapist at Clarity Health Solutions, she said that children who have little or no discipline are left to fend for themselves, which can result in injuries and also create a child who doesn't understand boundaries. She said, children look to parents to define what boundaries are and the consequences that can occur if the child crosses the boundaries. And then she also talks about too much discipline. So unlike parents who enforce little to no discipline, Frederick says parents who practice strict or rigid discipline, aka what you're going to get into, authoritarian parenting, they do not allow their child to explore the world, which often leads to a child who becomes fearful, anxious, or rebellious. And then withdrawing affection and attention. So ignoring a child is to tell them that your love is conditional. Says Frederick. Sorry, were you say something?
No, I just had to catch my breath. I don't know.
You heard that and you're like,
oh my.
So she said withdrawing affection because a child does not do what they are told causes similar harm. These types of behaviors can cause a child to have low self-esteem, low confidence, which can result in the child not expressing their wants and needs. Over time, Frederick says that this can lead to codependency, in which the child will adapt to how they feel a person wants them to act. Many times this can lead to relationships that are very, very abusive, she says. So it's like, fuck yeah. I mean, you see that in your friends, in your as you grow up, and you know how some people were raised, if you know somebody that was raised in a difficult household, and then you can see some of these issues stemming from those things, like not ignoring your child is never okay.
No.
You know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of parents do that today, though, because of technology.
Right. You know what? I should clarify. Like intentionally ignoring your child as a form of punishment is not okay.
Oh, there you go.
I know
okay,
that it is also like, and I'm not saying it's okay, you know, just being on your phone either, but I see it's so easy to ignore your child that way. And that's not okay either, but it's a different type of not okay.
Right.
Than intentionally saying, you spilled some milk, so I'm not going to fucking talk to you for the rest of the night. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yep.
But yeah. And then the other one that's on here, the last one is shaming. So whether in public or private, children who are continually shamed can develop issues with perfection and a fear of failure. And it can also lead to depression or anxiety. So effects of bad parenting and like physical abuse, sexual abuse, just abuse in general, can leave a child having a very negative self-perception of themselves, control issues, maybe very rebellious, or emotional and behavioral problems. Now that being said, it's like, yeah, we're all doing our fucking best. It's so hard. I'm not condoning somebody doing something maliciously and being a shitty parent.
Right.
But it's also something else to be a parent today, working one job, two jobs, whatever you're doing, 60, 80 hours a week, whatever the case may be. And your kid is in whatever sports they're in or whatever activities they're in. And you're just trying to make ends meet. And you're trying to do everything you can to make sure that your kid has the life that you never did.
Yeah.
And then while you're doing that, you're also ignoring them at times because you're so exhausted when you get home at the end of the day that you're just sitting there on your fucking phone because you're just trying to find your baseline in your brain. You know what I'm saying? And then I feel like it's scary because then you can make yourself feel like you're a shitty parent and you're not.
Yeah.
And that's the other self-destructive thing that I don't like about it, because I feel like as a parent, you're constantly critiquing yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like anytime you do something wrong, you're like, if you're like me, you kind of beat yourself up about it. My wife does the same thing. And we try, whenever we do that kind of stuff, like her and I always try to talk about it. Like if she is frustrated with herself because she had to yell at the girls because they weren't fucking listening, she'll talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll kind of reassure each other to just let each other know, like, listen, okay, yeah, I know that we got pushed to that place emotionally. We shouldn't let these kids, you know, elicit that type of response for us, but we're also human beings that are dealing with our own shit.
I think that's good that you guys find that in yourselves, because you, as a parent, it's so easy to find like, oh man, I was a shitty parent. I shouldn't have yelled at them.
Yeah.
But you got to give yourself grace. You know what I mean? Like you just said, dude, life is stressful.
Yeah.
You know, and when you have small people constantly needing you to survive,
oh my God,
it takes a lot out of you. And sometimes you snap, and that's not okay. I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, it's okay to snap on your kids, but it happens.
But you just need to be able to you need to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not making it into some sort of habit and it's not resulting in you intentionally trying to cause some sort of harm to your children.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. You know, I snapped. Let's talk. And we also talk to our kids. If we feel like we were out of line, obviously, then we'll talk to our kids and be like, hey,
I've done the same thing. I've apologized multiple times.
I call it the Danny Tanner moment. Like, remember Full House? You watch Full House?
Yeah.
Okay. So like I had an unfair understanding. Like my parents were great in that working class, worked hard, took care of me. Like they were there to help me and educate me and support me. But like I grew up watching Full House, and it was like every time there was an argument, it cuts to Michelle's room, and like she's sitting there on the bed like and then it's like, hey Michelle, just want to talk to you about what happened earlier. And like it was her dad. And like every time you're like, oh, so every time something happens, the parents are just immediately going to come talk to the kids. It's not how that shit works.
No,
bro. It's not.
Well, usually after the knock, they cue the sappy music, and then it ends with like a hug.
Yeah.
So
but it's like, so I do try to talk to our girls about the emotions, the ones that they're dealing with and the ones that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And if mom or dad gets angry, especially because it's like when I'm traveling and doing all this other stuff and I'm not home and Ashley has to be there, like I don't know how single parents do it.
I couldn't imagine.
I don't care how many kids you have. I don't know how you do it. Like I have so much, because having the relationship that I have with my wife and parenting our kids, it's exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing it on my own. I couldn't. It's just, oh my God.
Wow.
But it's like for her and I to be able, like when she has to watch the kids when I'm gone, yeah, man. And it's stressful, and she's working and she gets calls outside of work too. And so it's like, yeah, if she gets pushed to the point where she gets frustrated with the kids, we'll talk to the kids afterwards. She'll talk to the kids afterwards and be like, listen, this is why I acted that way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I could have done better. But understand that when I ask you to do something, 147 times and you don't do it, the 148th time, I might fucking yell. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's, it's so hard.
But I mean, that sounds like a pretty solid, like, it sounds like you guys have a really solid relationship, and your girls are learning.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want it to be like the proper way, the right way, but I mean, like, that sounds very healthy, the way you're raising your kids, man. And
we try to be transparent, as transparent as possible, as open as possible with everything, and knowing that we're going to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, admit that we make mistakes. Because I feel like your child, the most important thing with a child is just making sure that they have confidence in themselves. Because for anything else you do in your life, you're going to have to believe in yourself, as cliche as that sounds. And I feel like your inner voice, and I've said this before, is more or less an amalgamation of the voices that you heard the most growing up. So it's like it's a mixture of your mother and your father, if that's the household you grew up in, or if it was with a grandmother or an uncle or whoever, like whatever advice they gave you, whatever parenting they did for you, that's what makes up and that's what shapes your inner voice, I think.
I agree.
And so it's like to have confidence is so important to me. And so I think to have like a more positive inner voice, I think ownership's really important. So it's just letting my kids know that I did make a mistake, that daddy isn't feeling good today. You know, daddy is, I'm sad, and this is why I'm sad. I'm frustrated because I asked you to clean your room and you didn't do it. I'm tired from work. And because of that, it's causing me to not be able to do the activities that you want to do right now. And just trying to admit and be open about that. And that's all I can really do. You know what I mean? I mean, what about you and Amanda? How do you feel like your guys' parenting styles is? And then I'll let you get into what you found about parenting styles in general.
It's a lot of the same. We'll snap and then we'll go back and be like, okay, we're sorry that we did this. This is why. We always, at first when they were younger and they didn't understand, I would just yell and never explain myself. Now, as I'm getting older, I find myself, and my kids are getting older, they understand more. So I might snap, and I don't do it very much. I don't yell a lot. You know what I mean? Like I don't, but when I do, it's like, all right, sorry. This is why I yelled. Right. Here's what led up to that. Right. And I think my kids receive that way better than just getting yelled at. Yeah. They understand now. And I've noticed whatever they got yelled at for, they don't do it as much. Well, yeah. After you like talk to them. You know what I mean?
I think explaining is really important too. It's like, and that obviously depends on the kid's age and everything, but it's like with my oldest, and I really see it now, the way that she vocalizes things, but it's just like, if I have a problem with something, just yelling at her to not do it will maybe work in the short term. But if I also explain to her why, at least obviously, then she's more likely to not do it in the future. You know?
I think recently, like I said before, I just did a lot of yelling. Yeah. And that was it. But like I said, I'm putting myself in their shoes. Yeah. They're kids. Right. They don't know. They're gonna act like kids. They need the why. Yeah. They need the why to understand the reasoning. And sometimes as a parent, work gets to you and life gets to you and you forget that. And I think keeping that mentality of like, my kids need to know why. Like I'm not saying like, oh, I have to explain myself to my kids. Right. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying is it's beneficial to have your kids understand like why you act the way you acted.
Well, their brain's constantly fucking expanding. They're sponges for so long. So it's like we're helping create how their processes in their own brain work. So like, yes, I understand what you're saying in regard to I don't have to explain myself to you, but I want to explain this process so you understand like the way that the emotions change and like run through my brain.
That's a pretty
situation.
That's a pretty tall order for a couple knuckleheads like us, man.
Yeah, I know.
Oh boy.
You make dad sad. Skyfire come up, make dad happy. Dad go lift heavyweight in gym. Dad happy now. Yeah. But I mean, we do our best. I mean, I feel like we do our best. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying, man. I am trying.
So parenting styles.
Yeah.
What are the 4 main parenting styles that you found?
Yeah. So verywellfamily.com says that there's authoritarian, which is, I think this is one of the worst that you possibly could be. You believe your kids should be seen and not heard. When it comes to rules, it's my way or the highway.
Right.
And you don't like your child's you don't take your child's feeling into consideration in any situation. So It's just like whatever I say is going to go.
And I feel like that was like like when you, looking at like the overview here, like from a societal perspective again, that was kind of the norm for a while in history, right? It was seen, not heard.
Yep.
For kids, like you shut the hell up, you don't say anything because adults are talking.
Yep.
And then it's like interesting to see how the next generation on average acts because of what was the socially accepted parenting style.
Yeah.
Because it keeps changing. You know what I mean? And authoritarian, I think, was for sure a huge staple in like parenting styles for a long time. But anyway, what was the next one?
The next one is authoritative. So with this one, you put a lot of time and effort into creating and maintaining a positive relationship with your children.
Okay. That's a good one.
You explain the reasons behind your rules. So you have rules, but you give them the why behind it.
Right.
And you set limits. You enforce rules and you give consequences, but you take your child's feelings into consideration when enforcing those rules.
I like that. I like saying that you take them into consideration. You're not letting the child's feelings just dictate it because it makes you feel uncomfortable that I'm not going to punish you. It's like, I understand that this is why you feel this way, but this is more important to discipline you, and this is why. This
is the parenting style that I try to strive for.
Yeah.
On an everyday basis. And there's sprinkles of other, like the Marine Corps gave me the this is my way, this is how it's going to be with certain things.
I think the military in general, it makes you want to be the authoritarian type of father. And what I've talked about before is like, while initially I thought I wanted to be the authoritarian type, I wanted to rule with an iron fist. Having 2 daughters, like I wanted to be that almost militaristic type dad, and I thought about it for all of like 45 seconds, and I was just, because if I just the way our brains work, if I fucking tell you not to push a button, all you want to do is push that fucking button, right? So I'm like, okay, I know. And then looking at kids that I grew up with who had the authoritarian parents.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids that I grew up with that had authoritarian parents, as they grew up, went to college, they went fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And like everybody, goes crazy when they get older and they start to figure out who they are. But like the kids that I knew that had the most authoritarian parents went the wildest.
Oh, yeah.
For fucking sure. So like then I just realized that, again, I just wanted to give my kids what they needed so they could make their own decisions.
Yep.
And they could take care of themselves.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely agree. I think authoritative is probably the best, at least for me so far. What were the other 2 that you found?
So the third one's permissive. This is more of like, I'm your friend, not your parent.
Yeah.
So you set rules, but you rarely enforce them. You don't give out consequences, and when you do, it's very few and far apart, so the child doesn't know. And you think your child will learn best with little interference from you. So pretty much like, hey, spread your wings, go fly, see what happens.
So like kind of, is that like like a free spirit type? Just like go out and do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to watch.
But I'm here if you need me.
Right.
Type. Like I'll still provide your needs and I'll make sure you're living.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's, you know what I think of? You ever seen Mean Girls?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I've seen Mean Girls.
You know the mom, Regina's mom?
Yes.
She is a permissive parent, I believe. Like that would be an example.
Because she was like trying to be her friend, best friend.
Yep.
Therefore, not giving out consequences and not really enforcing any rules. I get what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last and most unfortunate is uninvolved. You don't ask your child about school or homework. You rarely know where your child is or who they are with. And you don't spend much time with your children.
Yeah.
If any at all.
Yeah.
So this is your workaholic parents, I feel like, who just, that's not true, not workaholic, but those are the people who are like, oh, I don't want kids, but I had one anyway.
That like resent their children a little bit.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's hard because, again, we're pushed to the point where some people have to work all the time. Again, like single parents. I have friends that are single parents that work their asses off so their kids can have whatever it is that they need. But on the other side, you know, a lot of them, you know, have family members, which is huge to help with your kids. But like some of them don't. And I'm just like, fuck. Like you're just in it. You're in it on your own, doing your best. And then it's just so hard that these things can happen when you're not trying to be a bad parent. You're trying to do everything you can for them, but it's just like you can only do so much. That's why they always used to say that it takes a village. Yeah. Right? That was like such a common saying, and I don't hear it as much anymore. They said it takes a village to raise a child. And then as your children get older, you're like, yeah, holy shit, it does. Because how beneficial is it when your kids are sick or when just life throws whatever it throws at you to have other people that have your back. When my mom passed away, I had a friend of mine, Officer Casey from Mantino, I've talked about him before, and his wife had reached out and said, hey, I know what just happened. Like, I am here to babysit your kids if you need me to, because there were times after my mom passed, we didn't have anybody to watch my kids anymore. During the day when Ashley and I are working, all this other stuff's going on, and like we're in between daycare or something, I can't remember. And so like, it was so helpful to have that additional support. Like support is everything. It takes a village. Like it's so hard. But I mean, so I guess pros and cons, what else did you find as far as like the pros and cons of those parenting styles? Yeah.
So authoritarian, the pros are there's clear boundaries. Your kids know the rules. They know what your expectations. They know.
This is authoritarian.
Authoritarian.
Okay.
Yep. The clear bound. And then there's non-negotiable safety, right? You follow my rules, your kid's going to be safe. Like that's pretty much it.
Right.
The cons, there's a lack of emotional development. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Children of authoritarian parents tend to be bullies more because they imitate the behavior of their parents. So that leads to bullying. And then also rebellion. Is another con to that one.
Right.
For authoritative, the pros, you build healthy relationships. They build confident children. And good grades tend to follow authoritarian parents.
Authoritarian or authoritative?
I'm sorry. Authoritative.
Okay.
Authoritative. There is some cons to being an authoritative parent. I don't think this is a con, but it says lots of work. Well, yeah, it takes work to be a good parent. Like, no shit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is like, it is a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay.
I mean,
I get it.
And then the other con was you said they get judgment from other family members. Like,
you're going to get that shit no matter what.
Regardless of what parent you are.
Judge me.
So, again, this is another good parenting style because good pros, the cons are like laughable. Like
for authoritative. Yeah.
For permissive, the pros are you're a nurturing parent because you're giving the child everything that they want, essentially, and like being their friend, and there tends to be a way more open communication because if your kid feels like your friend, they're going to talk to you more.
Yeah, and probably because the kid feels like less judged because as a parent, the other styles, you have to judge a little bit. Like if they do something, you're judging that thing based on your personal experiences and giving them your opinion. Whereas in the permissive style, you're letting them do whatever the fuck they want. So I mean, you're not going to judge them if they do anything. So that makes sense why the communication would be better.
Yep. So the cons of the permissive, there's no boundaries. Impetus. IMPETUS.
Yep.
Impetus.
Yep.
It's impetus on the child. So the child may develop unhealthy eating or sleeping habits because basically they do whatever the hell they want, essentially. And then there's, again, for this one, there's a lack of emotional development as well.
For permissive.
Because
you're kind of doing whatever you want. Your parents are never really there to guide you.
They're not there to guide, but they're there to basically be like a crutch.
They're like the fence, like the limitation, just to say you cannot go any farther than this point.
Yeah.
We don't really care what you do.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
And then uninvolved, the pros for uninvolved, none.
You know what? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Pros of being uninvolved, being financially stable, having fucking free time. I mean, I love my kids. But I'm just gonna say, when you said there are no pros, like I'm gonna say, okay, the cons are way worse than the pros.
Yeah,
but let's not act like there's no fucking pros. Like,
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. The cons, you have little to no relationship with your child.
Ugh. Yeah.
Again, impetus on the child.
Yeah.
But this one's way deeper because they're forced to find their own food and survive on their own.
Yeah.
And then again, lack of control.
I mean, not having a relationship with your kid is the worst. Like that would be the worst thing, I feel like, as a parent. And I know a few parents out there who do not have a relationship with their child, and I can see how much it hurts them.
Oh yeah.
And if it's been so long since they've talked to their children or whatever the case may be, they're like, how do I even start it again? And then the anxiety that seems to build from that, it's like, dude, I don't even know where to start.
No.
You know, I have a friend who hasn't talked to his daughter in a very long time, and it eats him up inside. And it sounds so simple to make that phone call, but because of anxiety and everything like that, he can't do it.
Yeah. And
I've talked to a father that didn't have a relationship with his daughter, another father, and he told me, he was just like, we had this conversation once and he had tears in his eyes. And I remember he told me, like, what do I do? Like, I've missed so much. And I'm just like, I remember that when I'm dealing with my kids at their worst. Yeah. When it's really hard and everything like that, I'm like, at least, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm earning my fucking stripes as a parent here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here. I'm here dealing with the good and the bad.
Yep.
But at least I have a relationship with my child. And to think of what it would feel like to not have that that's why obviously being an uninvolved parent is the fucking worst.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I couldn't even imagine not having a relationship with my kids. I couldn't even, like, that thought would never even cross my mind.
And I feel like parenting, because it evolves, obviously, your relationship evolves. And when we hopefully get to that place where our kids are older and we have then we do get to have the friend type of relationship.
Yep.
Like I feel like when I see I have a great relationship with my dad. I had a phenomenal relationship with my mother. Mm-hmm. And since my mom passed, I actually have a better relationship with my dad now. Yeah. Because we've been working on it, but we're getting into that and I can feel it, like friend territory.
Yeah.
Where when I can talk to my dad, I'm very much more open about things. I'm very much more being myself about things and having good conversations with him and getting to laugh with him about things. And though that's the fucking best. And I feel like if you are at the age where you have young kids and older aging parents, well, everybody's parents are aging, but you know what I'm saying? And your parents are still older. You're in this weird place in time because it's like, I understand both ends. I understand being the kid and being the parent. And so it's like you want to have a better relationship with your parents because now you appreciate the shit that they went through raising your fucking ass. And then it's like, but they're aging.
Yeah.
And like you're losing them.
Yep.
And that's why it's so tragic. And you want them to spend the time with your kids too. It's so weird getting to see that. And like I said, when my mother was on hospice, like the worst part about it, the biggest mind fuck for me was going from changing my daughter's diaper to my mom's same day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's the kind of stuff that really shook me to my core and made me like have these types of thoughts about how weird it is being a parent, having kids and then having your parents and then like just looking at those relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so as far as being parented, how were your parents, like what were your parents like as far as like parenting style?
So they were a little bit of mix of the first three. My parents were always involved.
Yeah,
always. They were never not involved. So that is off the table right off the bat.
Yep.
But my dad was the more like, he yelled, but we were more scared of mom. Mom laid down the hammer.
Yes. Yep.
So I mean, I had a very good childhood. I think I got yelled at when I needed to get yelled at.
Yep.
And I think that is the one thing that carries over that I don't like. I will yell, or I'll talk loud. That's what my mom used to say. I'm not yelling. I'm talking loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I find myself doing that.
There's a difference. There's like, okay, I can talk at a level where I know that it's going to echo a little bit in this fucking room. And then I can talk over at a level where you will hear me over machine gun fire.
Yeah.
And that is the top. Like, that's loud.
Yeah.
I yelled like that one time at my kids, and it snapped them because they're not used to hearing me yell at all. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So that's good. It's good. You got to get yelled at sometimes, especially when you screwed up.
Yeah.
You did something wrong and you need to be disciplined.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. My parents there was a lot of authoritative.
Authoritative.
I always get those two confused. Sorry.
They sound very close.
They do.
Like, I feel like for as opposite as they are, they should change
a little bit, right?
Change the label. But
yeah, a very authoritative household I grew up in.
Yeah, I think for the most part mine was too, just because my dad, he was working like third shift at the post office.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, he would work really hard at night, and he'd sleep in a little bit when he'd get home. And then my mom was always working too, and I learned a lot from both of them.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that I got, like, I spent the most time with my mom because my dad was working a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it was what he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing with my dad is, like, with as much as my dad was working and everything like that, when I was in sports, he would come to the games. And not only did he come to the games, but he paid attention.
Yeah.
And after the games, and I'll never forget this, as far as like parenting tips and tricks, this is something that my dad did that I appreciate so much as an adult that I try to do with my kids. Like, he watched the game and then he would talk to me about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, I noticed, like when I played football, he's like, yeah, in the first half, they were, you were leaving a gap open because I was like middle linebacker. It's like, you kept leaving this gap open. They were punching up through the middle. But after the second half, I saw that you really turned it, or in the second half, I saw you turned it around and you started doing all this and blah, blah, blah. And like, he was breaking it down fucking play by play. And at the time, I'm just like, all right, Dad, just leave me alone. Okay. I just want to go play with my fucking friend.
Yeah.
But like, now I'm like, oh my God. Like, he was paying attention to me.
Yep.
He was watching it the entire time. And he was breaking that shit down like a commentator. Like, and I try to do that with my kids because it's so easy when I bring my kids somewhere like gymnastics or whatever to just fade out, and I'm like on my phone a little bit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not paying attention to them. But like, now watching how your kid struggles with something and then getting to watch them overcome it. When I see my daughters getting better at something, I'll talk to them about it. Like, hey, you were having a really hard time with that balance beam. You were so afraid at first, and now you are just running across it like it's so awesome. And I get that from my dad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that if he didn't fucking do it.
I agree with that. I think that might be a dad thing, right?
Yeah.
Because my mom we would go take the train to Chicago. We would do this. We would do that. My dad never went and to do those.
Your mom made the experiences happen?
Yeah, but you know what? My dad coached me in baseball every single year up until I got to high school.
It's that balance, dude.
So,
yeah, everybody has their things that they're good at. And like my wife is the experienced person with our kids. Obviously she's a fucking phenomenal mom, but she always wants to take them places.
Yeah.
And I tell her all the time, like, I'm like, you're doing too much. You're taking them too many places, because they get so spoiled, because every day we pick them up. They're like, where are we going today? I'm like, we're going to enjoy our wonderful home. That's where we're going today. But like, it's great to have that balance.
Yeah.
And my mom would take me with her when she was doing all the things that she was doing. But just like in your relationship with your parents, my mom was the disciplinarian. Like, my mom would use the threat of wait till I fucking tell your dad. But I was, and that would scare me.
Yeah.
But my mom disciplined me way more
Yup.
than my dad did. But it was just the fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh no, what's going to happen when dad finds out? Dad's going to just like yell and then he's going to go into his room. Like he's not going to. My dad never hit me.
No.
My mom was raised in the Philippines. Like, yo, she would right the back, not hard.
Yeah.
She would just tap me in the back of the head just to like get my attention. And when I got married, before I got married at my wife's bridal party, they played this little game. I might have told the story before, where it's like everybody writes a message to the bride to be, and my mom wrote 2 words, hit him, like on advice for the bride. That's what my mom wrote. But here's the thing. I deserved it. I was a little shit. And my mom would like, she would fucking right in the back of the head and I'd straighten me out. So, I mean, you know, I don't think, and it's weird when you talk about like spanking and stuff.
Yep.
Because I didn't get like spanked in the traditional sense,
No.
bent over the lap, hit with it something. But like my mom, if whatever was in her hand, if I was acting up, just that would be the weapon.
Yep.
Usually it was a sandal. If you grew up with like a Filipino or Hispanic mom, because I've talked to my Hispanic friends about this, it was usually a sandal or some piece of like bamboo or some shit. Because my mom had a bamboo broom. Every once in a while, she would tag me with that too, or she would pinch me sometimes.
My mom used to do that. If we were acting up out in public, she would just pinch us under our underarm.
And dude, out in public was so weird because like now, if you discipline your kid in public, I feel like somebody's like recording you and send that shit to DCFS.
Oh yeah.
Like my mom would hit me in the middle of a Jewel Osco aisle, crowded aisle, and parents are just walking by like, yes, yes, fuck them kids. Like parents supported each other back then.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like when I would get hit in public, it was totally fine.
Dude, I was so scared of my mom. She never had to hit me. Dude, she always, to this day, she gets her nails done.
Yeah.
In like the brightest whatever the season is, her nails match.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll never forget. She had like these bright, almost red, but still kind of pink nails.
Yep.
And all she had to do, she would point at me and she would like make her face just make it like I don't want to say like look like a butthole, but like it kind of looked like a butthole, you know?
What? Just like
her
pucker
mouth,
the
like it would
lips?
just like pucker up.
Yeah,
and she would just
yeah.
be like, wait till we get home.
Dude, anticipation is everything. That's fear.
Dude, it was terrifying. To this day, I'm still scared of my mom.
Yeah.
And her favorite saying, I brought you into this world, I can take you out.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, yes, ma'am.
But the fear and the anticipation is the worst because you're just like going through your head thinking of all this crazy shit that could happen that never has. But you're just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Same thing with like, wait till your dad gets home and you're like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like you're so terrified. But it's just like, again, it's like usually I don't know, like my mom was the fucking disciplinarian.
Yep.
Do you feel like you have failed as a parent, or did you ever have a moment where you felt like you failed as a parent?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day.
Fucking every day, dude. Every day.
But on the other hand, I'm like, man, I failed as a parent. But then I look at my kids and I'm like, damn, like I must be doing something right. Because
yes,
I have people, your kids are so well behaved. Your kids are so great to be around. And I'm like, my kids?
Yeah.
Like, are you sure?
It's weird getting compliments. Well, and then people always say like kids act different around their parents.
That's true.
Because they're so much more comfortable, obviously, which is good. But like, yeah, dude, when we had dinner at your house and we brought our kids, your kids were so nice. I feel like your kids were staring at my kids. I feel like it was like that episode of Bluey.
No.
Like your kids were Bluey and his sister, and then my kids were fucking Muffin and Socks. Like they were just bouncing off the walls, just freaking out and everything like that. No, but your kids were I thought they were very well behaved. And
well, thank you.
It's nice to have those moments where you're just like, I am a good parent. Like, I'm a good parent. Did you see what my kid just did?
Yeah.
Like my kid did this. My kid said thank you. My kid picked something up that this other person dropped, and you're just like, oh, I'm a good parent. Like, you just want to show everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. But how else? Like, what specifically did you do and you felt like you failed as a parent? Like just yelling or like what?
I, for a while, transitioning out of the military is not easy.
Right.
So for a while, I would treat my kids like they were poolies in boot camp, training to be Marines.
Yep.
And it took me a long time, and a lot of people tell me they're kids. They're just kids.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be kids, and they're gonna do what kids do.
Right.
And for some reason, whatever they did to me at boot camp, I had a really hard time shaking that. Yeah.
And well, I think that a lot of people, a lot of veterans, a lot of people getting out of the military, like would feel kind of the same way. I mean, that's the, what do you call it? It's a stereotype kind of thing, really. Like a lot of the military parents have that militaristic, that authoritative is good. Authoritarian is the bad one, right? Well, like the super strict one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
so I think a lot of the military style has the authoritarian style because that's what they're doing all day, every day. So yeah, I mean, it's literally and figuratively beaten into your head. So yeah, you're going to go home and act the same way. But again, we're seeing that while that works on training young men and women to fucking go fight in war, it's not great
for a 5-year-old.
For a 5-year-old, who's just being a 5-year-old. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I mean, I've had moments where I've felt like I failed as a parent, and I've talked about this moment before, but I'm going to talk about it again. We had a moment at gymnastics where my youngest, she is just like I said, she's fire. She's fire, and my oldest is like water, in that my oldest can be as soft as a raindrop, but she can also hit you like a fucking typhoon. You know what I mean? Like she can take the shape of whatever she's in. Like I feel like my oldest is more like water, whereas my youngest is more like fire, where she just wants to burn it all down. Okay. So we were in gymnastics, and my youngest, there was like 1 instructor, 2 instructors, and there was like 6 to 8 like 3-year-olds. So my youngest is going to take any opportunity to like wild out and do that. So she's like not really listening, and seeing this, you're like, okay. Like it's the way it's set up is there's this giant open gymnasium with all the different groups of kids, depending on age. And then all the parents are kind of sitting on some bleachers on one side. And so all the parents are seeing my kid just act like a little asshole right now. And so my wife is like getting up, and she's like, hey, Cece, listen, you need to listen. And Cece's just not having it. She's like, not today. Like today she's going full Cece. Like, so my wife's trying to calm her down. Cece's running away from my wife, which is like unintentionally funny. And then my wife finally grabs Cece. Cece's kicking and screaming. Yeah. And at this point we're like, okay. And the sound travels, bro. It's just like, okay. So now my wife grabs Cece and carries her like a suitcase out of the place while she's kicking and screaming. And I grab my older one and I let them walk out first. like I'm not walking out with them. You know what I mean? Like I let them walk out, and then like I'm like, hey Lily, we're gonna count to like 10 Mississippi, and then we're gonna walk out. Just look down, don't make eye contact with anybody. So we walk out, and as we walk out, you know, my wife is visibly frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And another parent came up to me and did the nicest thing that any parent can ever do when your kid is having a freak out. She walked up to me and she just said, hey, I got 3 kids. I've been there. I get it.
Yeah.
You guys are doing great. That's what she said to me. And she almost brought fucking tears in my eyes in that moment. Because in that moment, you're just like, all you can do is feel guilt.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, 1, I'm a shitty parent because my kid's acting like this. 2, I'm ruining all of these people's moments with their kids because my kid's having this breakdown. And it's making you question everything in that moment. You're like, should I never come back here again? Should I just not take my kid out of this? And to have another parent in that moment just tell you, it's okay. Yeah. You're doing fine. Like that was everything. That was the most beneficial thing. And I told my wife that because my wife didn't get to hear that. Yeah. Because she was already outside. And I told her that that's what that mom said, because I wanted her to know that too. And like after a situation like that, it's almost like a traumatic thing sometimes. You're just like, you can't help but just feel bad and angry with yourself. And then your kid gets over it and your kid doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But you still feel bad about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we had that moment. And after that, the gymnastics instructors told us that my youngest daughter was a liability, which is amazing and super impressive for a few reasons. One, because, bro, you are in a gigantic warehouse full of foam pads. You have an insurance policy that's good against tornadoes, acts of God, like fucking fire and stuff, but it's not good against my 3-year-old daughter. Like, she is here, bro. Like,
Did she get kicked out?
she didn't get kicked out. And here's the thing, and be very clear, this is no knock at all on the gymnastics instructors or the company. They were phenomenal, and they had every right to say what they did. They just said that, like, Cece needs to have a parent on her at all times. so like the fact that she was like that they told me that my daughter was a liability to their institution first made me sad and then made me proud.
Rightfully so.
Very proud of her.
Rightfully so.
But I still felt like, I failed as a parent in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? I think that woman who had said something to you, that was your grace. I think that.
Yes.
I think that because, dude, you're not a bad parent.
I appreciate that.
You're not. I think what would make you a bad parent is if your kids were like doing black tar heroin and you know what I mean? Like, dude, you're not a bad parent.
I mean, there's got to be a 6-year-old out there that's doing black tar heroin. That's super sad, but also, yeah, I'm just going to say that that's sad. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like I'm a good parent and I feel like my wife is a very good parent and we tell each other that. And I think that's also very important to tell. If you are with your partner and you are both parents to your children, to let your partner know that they're a good parent outside of the quintessential Mother's Day, Father's Day. Like every once in a while, it's nice to have that reminder like, hey, you're doing a great job. I love watching you raise our kids. You know what I mean?
I think at least once a month, I'll tell Amanda that. I'll tell her how much I love her and how great I think she does at like
just once. Like set it on my calendar.
Yep.
First Tuesday of the month.
It's actually the third Tuesday.
I love you. You're a great parent. And I'll tell you this again in 1 month.
No, it's...
That's the only time I'm going to tell you.
So when you say it like that, that sounds bad. Like, I was trying to be all, like, sappy and, like, cute and stuff, and you're like, hold on, let me check my calendar. No, I tell you you're great tomorrow.
I tell my wife every hour, every single hour on the hour, I tell her how phenomenal she is. No, I understand what you're saying.
I really do, though.
But it's good. It's good to remind yourself because time can go by so fast. And sometimes you realize like, oh, fuck, like just it's validating to hear that you are doing your best. And again, it's like if you see a kid having a breakdown and you know what it looks like when you see the parent's face.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I've been there. I know that feeling. I know that anger, that frustration, that fear, all of those emotions at once. And you're in a public place and you're trying to keep it together. Like to just let that parent know, hey, I've been there too. You're doing great. You know what I'm saying? Like within reason, the situation dictates. But like when you see a parent doing their best. And their kid is just being a kid and having a freak out. Letting that parent know that you're there is just very, very comforting.
I mean, if you want to feel like you're crushing it in parenting and other people are not, go to Disney, man.
I will not. I won't. Nope. I'm not ready yet.
Never?
I get too. No, I will. I definitely will. But like, I get too anxious with my kids in public places, man. Like I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I'm better now than I was before. And my wife helps me out so much with this. But it's like, dude, and again, and I'm not just trying to make jokes about it, but it's like my youngest, she wants to explore. She wants to run around. That's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's great. But like when I'm in a public place with a lot of people, like my anxiety is at like an 11.
Well, that's like are your anxiety because you don't know how she's going to act, or is it because someone could take her and you don't like, you have to constantly be by her, or is it a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Mostly because of I don't know how she's going to act, and I don't know if she's going to run away, and I'm going to spend the entire day chasing after her.
Yeah.
And then there is also obviously the fear of like somebody could take her or anything like that too. But like that's why it's hard for me to like want to do the Disneyland thing.
Yeah.
And also because yes, is that a staple of being a parent? It seems like it to me. My parents brought me when I was really little, but every parent I know that goes to Disney World or Disneyland that like posts about it on social media at the very end, they're just like, I am so fucking tired right now. Like, dude, I know it's like, it's exhausting. And that's the thing too. A vacation with your kids is not a vacation.
No.
Somebody told me that once. I forget who told me that, but I was like, yeah, 100%. A vacation with your kids is not a vacation.
No.
Love my kids. I love them so much. But because you have to follow them all day, make sure that they're okay. You're essentially trying to baby proof, child proof the world when you're doing things with your kids on vacation. You don't get to shut your mind off.
No.
You don't get to go into vacation mode because you got to look after your kids.
Dude, we had a plan. Excuse me. Amanda and I had a plan of vacation just from going to Disney. Like we had to do something just us because it was.
That seems smart.
Yeah. So we did Disney on. So that was our Christmas present to the kids. We left
Disney.
2019. We left on Christmas Day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and we went to Disney, and I think like February 2020, Amanda and I were in Colorado skiing, just the two of us.
Well, you have to take trips with your significant other too.
Yeah.
When you have kids, especially, I think.
Yeah.
Even if it's if my wife and I can't carve out much time, on occasion, like date nights and things like that, obviously super important when you have kids, super important. And usually you just end up talking about your kids the entire time anyway, but it's nice because you're just not stressed out at the moment because you're just focused on the well-being of your children.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because you're physically in their presence. So yeah, I think that's really cool that you guys were able to take a trip like that. So, I mean, I'll take my kids there one day. It's just, I got to wait until, because my youngest, Cece's 3. And so she's not quite like listening yet.
Yep.
And I think once she gets a little older and she can take directions a little bit more, like she's better at it.
Yeah.
Then I think I'll be for it. Maybe when she's like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I think I'd be ready.
That's a good age.
But like we put her on, like I said, we
put her on.
I was with my old, and it's like also too, as a parent, like you have your first kid, if you're like me, then you're an idiot. You're like, I know how to be a parent because I have a child, and you have a second one, and
I did the same thing.
The second child is just like, fuck everything that you know, like. Because that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me, and it was just my. And again, it's not. There's nothing wrong with either one of my children.
No,
they are both their own people.
Oh yeah,
and that's all that it is. But it's like, so with my oldest, I was against the leash. I would look at parents putting their kids on a leash, and I would be like, that is abuse. Like I would look at that and think that was terrible. My second born, dude, I'll have one of the leashes, and then like Ashley will have her on a second leash, like as many leashes as we could have on her, because we put one leash on her and she got stronger. Like now she's got thick little legs because she's dragging us around like a bulldog. Like we put like 5 different sets of child locks on, like we're in fucking Jurassic Park with the Velociraptor cage, because she keeps figuring out all the fucking child locks. So we got to get a new set of child locks, and she figures that one out. She's 3 years old.
Yeah,
like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think that's where I fucked up. I was like, oh man, my first kid's so great and perfect, and every other kid I have is just going to be the exact same way. So let's do it. Yeah.
And I also think nostalgia is a part of that too, because it's like you think your first kid was perfect or whatever, but it's really like that's where you went through a lot because you were just figuring out all of the firsts, all of the things that you didn't know, and then you look at. Your first kid is older, so they're a little bit more maybe better, a little bit more well behaved, or whatever, their temperament's balancing out.
Yep.
And then you have a baby, and now obviously in comparison to you're a little bit older, more mature child, now it's going to make that nostalgia even more serious. We're just like, oh, things were so great with my first one. But the one thing between my first and my second child was, with my first child, our sleeping, like my wife and I, was way worse, because we were trying to get her. My oldest was having problems sleeping at night. My youngest, Cece, she has her bedtime routine down pat. She gets in bed. There's like no issues really for the most part.
Yep.
She's phenomenal. But my oldest, we co-slept with her for a while. So it was really hard for her to actually start sleeping. And then you get into this point as a parent where like, and I talked to a guy not too long ago about this who has twins. Like when you get to that point of sleeping so little with a baby, a newborn or a toddler, that like you almost start hallucinating.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, have you been there? I've fucking been there.
Dude, it's so weird because I feel like the baby stage was such a long time ago.
I know, but it's like, dude, there were my wife and I went months with like next to no sleep, and I'll never forget. There was like one morning at like 2 a.m. where my wife and I were just yelling at each other at the dining room table, and we have no idea what we were yelling at each other about. And then the next morning, I like walked up to her and I was like, "Are we okay?" And my wife was like, "I don't even know what we were fucking arguing about." Like we were just so tired.
Babies are hard, man. They're stressful. God. So Nora, hated the car. Right. So I used to have to drive. I would drive Gavin around base, and that's how he would fall asleep.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Nora, do you remember being Mitch's wedding? How far away it was?
Where was that? In like Ohio?
It was somewhere in Indiana, like Amish Village, Indiana.
Yep.
Dude, she cried. It was probably 4 hours ish away.
Oh God.
The whole way home.
Yeah.
Screamed, dude. Anytime we got in the car, scream her head off.
Yeah.
And I was like, Gavin didn't do that. What? And
now it's like you can, with tablets when they get a little bit older, then at least that you can keep them entertained enough. Yeah. Where it's like they're not like a baby.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But which also I wanted to bring up before I get to the next section. What is your opinion on screen time with your kids? Because your kids, how old are your kids?
8 and 5, going to be 6 in August.
Yeah. Mine are 3 and 6. And so it's like, what is your, because when we're talking about failing as a parent, some parents look at letting their kids have a lot of screen time and they feel like that they're failing because of that. And to that, I will say we had TVs. Like when I was a kid, we would just get put in front of the TV and we would just sit there and watch TV all the time. It's like, this is, I feel like tablets and stuff's kind of that. I mean, maybe it's a little bit worse visually. Maybe it's worse for your eyes because you're holding the screen so close to you. Yeah. But I don't think, like, these kids have to understand technology. It's a big part of their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to have to use it. For us, our kids have tablets. They both have their own tablet. But we just limit the time that they're on there. They just can't have, and we don't have a strict amount of time. What we set as the kind of the barometer is that if we tell the kids, okay, hey, in 10 minutes, we're taking the tablets away. If they start flipping out because they know that we're going to take their tablets away, then my wife and I know that they're getting too much tablet time. Yeah. Like, and now our kids are to the point, and like Lily's obviously better at it because she's older. If I tell her like, hey, we're going to take the tablets in a few minutes, she's like, okay. And she'll just like, give it to me. Yeah. And then we're fine. So, I mean, because it's hard because I can't say it's like, oh, 1 hour and no more and no less. Like it's hard for me to say some shit like that. Yeah. Like if they want to be on the tablet, they can be on the tablet. But if that's all that they're doing and you notice that's all they're doing, okay, well, maybe I need to make sure that they're coloring, playing with toys, doing some other shit. Yeah. It's kind of hard to find that balance, I think.
Yeah, dude, there's one tablet in my house and it's mine. Yeah. I have a hard time with I'm still stuck in like, dude, it's summer, go play outside. Yeah. Like you don't need to be inside. They'll watch TV in the morning. They watch TV. But they're really good if I'm like, hey, turn it off. Yeah. They turn it off. But there's no tablet. Gavin will play video games. Some days he'll play quite a bit, but other days, they're really good at just like, I'm like, all right, turn it off, you're done. Yeah. And they're done. See, they have enough tablet time at school, which really, I guess I'm an old soul and I'm having a problem like transitioning into the fact where my kids are going to be on computers all day. Yeah. And like, I think that's silly for kindergarten. But at home, I definitely try to limit because I never had growing up, I never had that like family cohesion. We didn't have family dinner every night.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? We had like Sundays.
Right.
And that we have dinner every night. At dinner, we'll put our phones away. Amanda will put her phone away. I'll put my phone away. And we talk about our day.
Yeah.
And we check in with our kids and see how they're doing. And they check in with us and see how we're doing. And and I really like that. I think that's where I'm doing okay as a parent.
Yeah,
I think
you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And you're dedicating your time and your attention to your child.
I mean, I don't know about you, but dude, it drives me nuts when you go out to eat. Not only are food prices freaking ridiculous, but you sit down at a table and you got mom and dad and they're on their phones not talking to each other, and you got kid A, B, and C all on a tablet, not acknowledging anything that's going on. It's like, why did you even go out to eat?
I've done that and been fucking guilty of it. And my wife and I will talk about it when we notice ourselves in those moments. Like, what are we doing? Okay, we got to stop here for a second. But the other hard part is, especially with my wife and I and our jobs, sometimes she gets a work text or call and she needs to handle it. I get to work something and I have to handle it. And then like with our kids, we'll escalate it in public as far as like when we pull out the tablet. Yeah. Like usually we start with coloring and stuff, like toys or whatever they have. And then as they start getting more agitated or acting or getting all over the place or whatever, the last ditch effort is we'll say, okay, here's your tablet, watch your tablet for like a little bit. But we'll also try, and also like it's, again, Cece's 3. Lily's at the age where, and I'll take her out and like we can talk. It's hard to talk to a 3-year-old sometimes, right?
Yes.
As far as like their attention and everything. But like when they get a little, like a couple more years, then I think it'll be a little bit easier. But we definitely don't try to just push screens on them and then everybody's sitting there on their screens the whole time. Because you see that a lot.
Oh, it happens the whole time.
Which is like an episode of Black Mirror or something. Like it's weird when you see that happening. But
there was a time where it got like we wouldn't give them tablets, but they didn't know how to act, so we just stopped going out to eat for a while. Like we just didn't go. Yeah,
I read something. I think it was Jordan Peterson, something he said about parenting, and and right, wrong, or indifferent about how you feel about Jordan Peterson. What he said about parenting was like if his kid were to act up in a restaurant, he would take his child and they would go stand outside and he would let the child flip out, do whatever, but he would wait with them outside until they were done. And then at a certain point, the kid wants to go back inside, but like he would just continue to stand there and wait until he felt like the kid understood that they made a mistake and then they apologized and they're ready to go back in again. And obviously that depends on the age, but like, and it's about showing that I can wait this out. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'll do that with my kids sometimes, depending on the situation. Like I'll wait out their outburst. Like if they want to flip out, freak out, whatever, if I can just let them do it, if we're in the house and there's nobody else around and they just want to have an outburst, I'll just let them have their outburst. I'm not trying to ignore them. Yep. I'll tell them that I'm not going to talk to them while they are being mean, while they're saying these things, doing these things. And once they calm down, then we will talk about this. Yep. And I'll just let them continue to go. And eventually they run out of steam. You know what I'm saying? So I've done that too.
Yep, been there.
Yeah. So how to, or what to do when you feel like you're failing as a parent. So here's a couple of things that I found on healthline.com as far as like some things that you can do if you feel like you're making some mistakes as a parent, which is also very hard to be able to admit. But a lot of times I feel like, especially too in today's society, it's like you see parents blaming teachers and teachers blaming parents. And it's just like, all you can do is take ownership and control what you can control, right? So like you do your best, you give yourself some grace, but some things that you can do. And it's like, and I don't want it to come off as me thinking that I have the authority to tell anybody how to be a better parent. Like I'm doing my best just like everybody else. Yeah. But again, according to just what I read, some things you can do if you feel like you're just having a difficult time being a parent, and you're able to really have that self-reflection and say, I do have some things I need to work on. For your children, make sure that you're listening to your child's thoughts and feelings. You're considering them. That doesn't mean you have to bow to them, but you're just acknowledging their thoughts and feelings as being their thoughts and feelings, providing appropriate consequences which is, I think, always good. I used to knock timeouts because I didn't think timeouts would ever work. But for my kids, for the most part, timeouts work. It's just the idea of not being able to do what you want to do.
Yep.
It's like makes them feel like claustrophobic or whatever. So I mean, the timeout thing, whether it's a stair or in a corner or whatever, like that seems to work for the most part when it comes to my kids. Label the behavior, not the child. So I like this. So if parents want to label, they should make sure that they're labeling the behavior and not the character, according to this article. For example, if a child's acting out, remind them that it's the behavior of a bully rather than saying you are a bully. And I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Because if you're telling someone that you are a bully, you're putting that into their head. And so they're gonna play to that, right? As opposed to saying you're acting like things like that. Definitely. I
agree with that one 100%. 100%.
And then don't withhold attention, obviously.
Yep.
Show love and affection. Everybody gets angry with their children, but ignoring them really just confuses children. So if you explain that you're angry, and although you're angry with them, that you still love them, that's one of the most beneficial ways you can go about it, according to this article again on healthline.com. It says if you need a moment, try putting them in timeout. 1 minute for every age that they're at, according to this article, and calm down, collecting your thoughts and feelings. So yeah, and also collecting your own thoughts and feelings. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Super important just
Absolutely.
to try to take yourself out of the situation. And then the other thing on here is let your kids make mistakes. Again, depends on the situation, right?
Absolutely.
But like when your kid makes a mistake, do you talk to them about it? Again, I'm not trying to come from this position of I know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'll talk to my kids. Like if my oldest daughter makes a mistake, I'll talk to her about it and ask her what she could have done to not have made this mistake happen and what she's going to do next time. And like if she can articulate that pretty well, then I'm like, okay. And we just kind of move on about it.
Yeah.
If she spills something, she cleans it up. You know what I mean? And then we talk about why she spilled, because she wasn't paying attention, because she was watching TV while she was eating or whatever. Just trying to talk them through it. You know what I mean? I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah.
But now, as far as how to talk to yourself, if you feel like you're a bad parent, this is to a website. This is from a website, sleepingshouldbeeasy.com. So some of the things we already talked about. Acknowledge all of the things that you've done. It's really easy to forget that you're not a bad parent. Like you are doing your fucking best, and your kids have had plenty of moments where you've told yourself, I am a good parent.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
very thankful that I'm a good parent in this moment. Remember and acknowledge all that you have accomplished and do whatever you can to remind yourself of those accomplishments. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. Like maybe it's a picture of your kid at baseball or a picture of your kid because they won a spelling bee or like whatever it is. But it's like it's important to have those things because you can just look at it and say to yourself, I have things to be proud of. I'm very happy about this.
Absolutely.
Remember that your child needs to see all of you. Again, like we said, it seems like it's important to make sure that your kid understands that you're not just this one emotional state of a person. Like you're a human being. You make mistakes. You do everything you can. This is you happy, sad, angry. Your child needs to see all of you.
So on that, have your girls seen you cry?
My oldest has.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest did because when I found out when my mom was coming home on hospice, I took my daughter out, my oldest one, because she understood.
Yeah.
And so I brought her outside. We went to a park. We grabbed some ice cream. And then I told her what was going on with Lola. Mm-hmm. And at first she was like laughing, like she didn't understand. And then as she did understand, she started crying. And then the whole situation made me cry because I'm a human being. And then so we just cried together.
Yeah.
And then I talked to her about, this is why, it's okay that we're crying. This is what we're going to do with this feeling. And then I told her, we have to spend time with her. We have to make sure we make the most of it. Everything we can do to be with her while she's here, we need to do. Yeah. And I don't know if it was because of that conversation or because of just my daughter's beautiful personality, but from that moment on, when my mom came home on hospice, my oldest daughter was there. She was there. She was sitting with her. She was playing with her, talking with her. It was beautiful to get to have that. So yes, to that degree, my oldest has seen me cry. I don't know if my youngest has though. What about you?
Just when my dad. Also,
Yeah.
my dad was the only time because I don't know if it's like the way I was raised.
Yeah.
But like, men don't cry.
Right.
Type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think just when my dad was sick.
Did you ever see your parents cry?
My mom, yes.
Yeah.
I think my dad, he cried when he saw me for the first time graduating boot camp.
Yeah.
And he cried when his mom passed.
Yeah.
And I think those were the only times that I can remember where I saw my dad cry.
Yeah. Like my dad doesn't try to portray some sort of super macho, like whatever. My dad's just he's a working man.
Yeah.
He likes what he likes and he's very accepting of other people, but he was very independent. Like he loves to golf. He loves to fish. Those are things that you can do on your own. And like my dad is the type of guy that if you want to do what he's doing, he's all about it. He'll love to have you. But if you don't, he's totally fine spending time by himself. And I'm the same exact way. But like, I never really saw my dad very emotional other than when his parents passed away. When his parents passed away, I saw him cry. And then obviously everything with my mom.
Yeah.
But the one thing with my mom was like, I feel like his dad instincts would take over because if I was crying with what was going on with my mom and I was with my dad wouldn't cry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he knew that he had to be the dad for me. But then if he was having a moment, I would usually be able to like try to keep my composure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's just kind of like, it was just the social acceptable thing of the time was just like men don't cry or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it is important, obviously, like you said, like they said, this article, remember your child needs to see all of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for them to see. I'm glad that my oldest daughter saw that. Some other things, take your feelings as a sign that you care. Obviously, with anything, if you're sitting there asking yourself if you're doing a good job, like maybe you're not doing the best, but you're probably doing a pretty good job because you're constantly critiquing yourself.
Yep.
And you would be critiquing yourself if you didn't give a shit. You'd be like, I'm the fucking best. And you wouldn't critique anything. You know what I mean?
I'm buying myself a ribbon.
I am the world's greatest dad, just like it says on my coffee mug. So yeah. So your feelings mean that you care. Obviously, if you think there's a problem, try changing something. I think Einstein said it's only crazy until it works, and then it's genius. I mean, remember that you're not alone. Again, like that one mom said to me before, like telling that parent when they're having a hard time that they're not alone. That's like so nice. That's that's the perfect thing you can do for a parent if you see them having a hard time, is letting them know that they're not alone. So there were some stories that people shared on our Facebook page and messaged us about parenting in general. So we're going to read some of these. The first one was on our Facebook page, I'm Fine Podcast. It's from Mary Beth, and she said, what you need to do is recognize the amount of headspace you give your kids every day, recognize your definition of enough and why you don't feel like you're enough, and then hand on heart, show yourself love and grace. Go give your kids the biggest hug. Yep. Love all that. Again, just making sure you show yourself love and grace.
Absolutely.
Barrett Horak, he commented on there. He said, with my first daughter, I was not as communicative as I should have been with her mother. I didn't call as much because I could not stand her mother. Everything was personal. I didn't co-parent very well, which, holy shit. Again, co-parenting is like a whole other episode.
Couldn't even imagine, dude.
Yes. And I have some friends that co-parent extremely well, and I have the utmost respect for that, because it's like you have one relationship that ended, but you still have to maintain a relationship and being parents.
Yep.
And like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate people that have figured out how to co-parent. But anyway, Barrett says, the only person it hurt was my daughter. Before my daughter had graduated high school, I was on my second marriage. Go me, he said. After that, go you. And the state of Texas makes you go to a mandatory co-parenting class. Thanks to this class, I was able to have good communication and good co-parenting skills with my second daughter. I was also able to redeem the relationship with my first. Through this co-parenting class, I've been able to talk to junior Marines and other friends to tell them the importance of co-parenting. Yeah, man. Bravo, dude.
Absolutely.
Yes. And again, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. And I always have a lot of respect and appreciation for somebody that makes a mistake, acknowledges that, and then changes.
Absolutely.
Than somebody who either never makes a mistake at anything or somebody who makes a mistake and doesn't accept it and acknowledge it.
I think that's a pretty solid quality in a person.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, I think that is the for me anyway, that's one of the number one things, like, yeah, that's a good dude.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And then a message on Facebook. So since it was a message, I'll just say it was from Anonymous. This anonymous person wrote, "What would you say to a parent that feels like they have failed as a parent?" Well, someone once told me, if you're constantly worried you're failing as a parent or constantly wondering if you're doing a good enough job, then that means you're doing just fine, like we said earlier, right? Good parents worry about whether they're doing a good enough job. Bad parents don't think twice about it. I've held on to that, and even though it doesn't make me feel any better, it's comforting to think that they're probably accurate, even though I still hope every day that I haven't failed them. This person continues, have you ever, to answer the question, have you ever felt like you weren't doing good enough as a parent? Yes, every single day. Mom guilt is a thing. I can't speak for dads, but every woman I've spoken with understands the absolute weight we carry of mom guilt. I could have played with them more every day. I could have gave them healthier food to eat. They had too much screen time. I should have just read that extra book to them. I yelled at them too much. I should have let them do X, Y, or Z. Mom guilt can eat us alive and bury us. It's extremely easy to go through each day not feeling like you did a good enough job. What I have to constantly remind myself is that I'm doing the best I can do to the best of my ability. And while everyone else can always do better, I am doing what I can when I can. I didn't have the best example of parents growing up. They were emotionally and physically absent. And so I have made double the effort in being emotionally and physically present in my kids' lives, and that's all I can do. It's just better than my parents were, be better than my parents were to me. I don't necessarily think that feeling is something you can snap out of. Some days I feel like I did a pretty decent job as a mom, and most days I feel like I could have done better. But I have to keep reminding myself that I did the best I could with the tools and experience I have. And also, being honest with my kids who are older about that also helps. It's important to apologize to your kids, to admit that you made a mistake, to admit that you're having a bad day and didn't handle something well. Not only does it help humanize you, but it also helps them realize that you're doing the best you can. And sometimes you get a little grace in return from them. Sorry for the books. I have a lot of thoughts about parenting. So thank you for that. So yeah, I mean, mom guilt. My wife's talked to me about that before a lot. And she's told me that I don't understand. And no, I don't understand because I'm not a mom. So I'm sure, like, I can't imagine you grew this person inside of you and then they just leave and then they don't care about you anymore. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine. But again, as her partner, all I can do is try to tell her that she's doing a great job and to continue to tell her she's doing a great job.
Absolutely.
And hope that she can make the time to do some things on her own once in a while. So she gets to have those moments too, but that was awesome. And then the last thing that I'll read came from Amanda Stosiak.
I know her.
Yep. From Brad's wife. And she said, on our comment section on Facebook, when I would have days where I felt I wasn't present enough or was working too much or just otherwise not feeling like I wasn't doing something well, what helped me was sitting back and watching my kids to see how happy they are and really notice all the ways that they express love for me and realize I'm doing just fine. And I think she said fine for a reason.
Hey.
Yep. Which also, yes, I mean, if your kid is happy, if your kid has a beautiful inner voice and you can see that their confidence is there, you know you're doing all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought that was very cool.
For sure.
So thank you to everybody for submitting those, and make sure if you're not already, check out our Facebook page, I'm Fine Podcast. And stay tuned for when we're asking for more of what our fine family deals with each topic that we cover. But before we bring this to a close today, did you have anything else you wanted to say about parenting?
About parenting, no.
Yeah. No?
No. I
Just killing it.
just crushing it.
Yeah, no. Again, at the end of the day, give yourself some grace. You're doing your damn best. Make sure that you know that you're not alone. Be there for other parents. When you see other parents struggling, sometimes kids are assholes. You know
There's a book titled Toddlers Are Assholes.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So,
that's pretty good.
I highly recommend that to anybody who has a toddler.
There's also a book called Go the Fuck to Sleep, and those are the words.
I've
That's
heard
what
of
it's
it.
called. And
Yep.
there's an audible version, and
Oh.
guess who narrates it?
Who?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Shut up.
It's wonderful. I downloaded it, and then I was just like, when am I ever going to play this? Because I can't play this for my kids, obviously, but it's hilarious. And it's called Go the Fuck to Sleep. And yeah, and it's narrated by Samuel L. Jackson. Anyway,
Nice.
let's close it on a happy note. Brad, what do you got?
Let's do it. So, going off the parenting vibe,
Yep.
a gentleman named Sam Kaplan, 72 years old. He graduated from a Georgia college for the first time. So he graduated high school in the 60s. And he never went to school. Finally went to school, first of 7 in his family to graduate. And even more positive, his 99-year-old mother was there to watch him receive his diploma.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Never too late.
I love that. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Brad.
Yeah.
And thank you again for listening to the I'm Fine podcast. Thank you to our sponsors this episode, Smart Local 265, Kaz Cauliflower Pizza, and Sergeant Stickers. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.